Hello and welcome to session 2 of ABCs of BCAM, where the branch communications and marketing team are sharing tips and tricks on advertising, branding, and communications. So our campus community is aware of the different resources that are available through BCAM and how to use them to promote your events, activities, and other things that are happening on campus. Today, we are going to cover two really important pieces. One is the online campus calendar, as well as some other publicly available calendars to promote your events on. And then secondly, we're going to go over all of the campus listservs and how those work and the guidelines for using those to send out various campus announcements. Starting us off today, I'll introduce our BCAM team. I'm Anita Bringus, I'm the Strategic Support Manager. We have with us today Enrico Trujillo, Scott Gerdes, and Teresa Mondragon. We'll start off with Teresa talking about our online UNM-Taos online calendar. So I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa, and I'm here with the BCAM, and I'm going to show you guys how to do the events calendar. So the first step, you guys are going to log on to the http bcam.unm.edu. Then you click on Taos.
Yeah, and I didn't have all your slides. I'm
No, you're fine.
so,
You're fine.
So I mean, I do have most of your. So you can do that. You can also go to the front UNM-Taos webpage, and you can't see it on our thing, but here there's the go to the UNM-Taos page. So there's a couple ways. There's the URL that's here. You can UNM.edu. Click on the Taos icon, and this is real quick. I'm just gonna. So there is the. It'll take you to a sign-in place. And then you're going to click,
It's touchscreen.
sign in there. And then you're going to click on, I don't know how to use this. Sign in. And then what's going to be different about it is it's going to look the same. The only thing that you'll see after you log in is the manage button. And then you get into this. Which is the listing of stuff. So you have.
So you're going to click over here, right?
You can come over here and you can click on that. And it will open up.
And then you just put all your information that you want to be on the calendar. The name of the event, the summary of your event. And then you're going to put a location wherever your event's going to take place. And then you pick Taos campus, and then you're going to pick a date and a time as well, right here. And then you're right here, you're gonna pick from our library if you don't have a flyer already. And we have images there that you can just, so it won't be so bare. And then you're gonna upload it. And then you're gonna submit it. And then I get it on an email, and I verify to make sure everything's correct. And if it's not correct, then I submit it back to you and let you know what was wrong with it. And if not, then it goes onto the calendar. I submit them on Fridays.
Can we pull up a
And
URL? Can we pull up a
Yeah, let's
URL?
pull up the URL and
and
go
I'll
ahead
walk
and
through
go
it.
through it. And
Sorry.
so what we're gonna do is we're
Just
gonna
go to the homepage and just start from there.
So this is the home page.
So what I'd like to start with is actually just showing folks what we're talking about when we're referring to the UNM-Taos online calendar. This was something that took actually quite a bit several years ago to get for UNM-Taos. And it's a centralized place where all of the campus events that are submitted are accessible and visible by campus community as well as the public. So we're on our homepage right now, taos.unm.edu, and the calendar is embedded on the homepage of the calendar where it says upcoming events. It's set to show the next 6 events, and that's what you see here. So each of these events that you see here, mental health first responder, ABCs of BCAM, et cetera, those are all events that have been submitted. Now, that's just a snippet of the calendar. To view the full online events calendar, you click here, and that will take you to the actual calendar itself.
So I'm logged in.
That's fine. So a couple of things I want to show you about this view calendar. One is there's several different view types you can use and the public can use and campus community members can use. We're on the list with image version now. So as you scroll through, it has the title, the description, the date, time, and location, and the image that was uploaded. And as you scroll down, you'll see all of the events that have been posted and approved. You also can go to the full month calendar listing. And it shows just a summary, the time and the title of the various events. So here we are today, and we are at the ABCs of BCAM. The third view is this one, where it's also an event listing, but you'll see it does not have the image attached to it. This is just a quick at-a-glance listing of the title, the date, and the time. The other feature I want to point out here is you see that there's along the top banner, there are 4 events listed with images. Those are considered quote unquote featured events. So as you're submitting your event, if we deem them to be big, broad, campus-wide events, then we will select them as featured events. That's something we do on the administrative side, and they will show up with the image there on that top banner. This is one of the reasons why it's important to include images when you're posting events, as well as folks look at it on this view, again, the images will show up and just make it more engaging and eye-catching. Now, the other benefit to posting an event on our online calendar is one of the things, and we'll get into this a little bit more with the listserv, is because we have so many events on campus, historically, people would request to send event announcement out to the campus listservs. What was happening is we were getting a lot of unsubscribes because people were just inundated with emails about not just announcements and updates and critical things coming from the chancellor's office, for example, but every event that was happening on campus. And so what we decided to do instead is once a week, we'll compile all the events that were posted to the calendar and send them out. That's the Friday What's Happening email. And so we're leaning towards not sending out individual event emails, but rather encouraging folks to post them on the calendar. And if they are posted on the calendar, then they're included in that Friday listing that TEDESA sends out every week. So if you post your calendar event by, let's say, noon on Thursday, that will give TEDESA a chance to go in, approve it, make any edits if needed, and then it's included on that Friday calendar. I'll pause there and see if there's any questions just on the calendar itself.
Dorothy couldn't make it today, but we've been having an issue when she's posting to the UNM calendar. Because she says there's really not a drop down box for the Hive. So when our event is happening with some other campus event, it's kicking us out.
Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through the process of posting an event. So again, if we start from, instead of going through that long URL that TEDESA shared, you can go from the home page and again, go to the full UNM calendar, UNM-Taos calendar. It'll ask you to sign in. this red button here, which will prompt you to go to this page. This option that you want to select is sign in using the UNM email address. Right?
Yeah. And Nita, you can go ahead and zoom in. It's all going to fit on the screen. It's just harder for that. Zoom the other way. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so once you get, you would, so right now I'm in your,
I can go ahead and run.
okay,
So here we're going to go ahead and there's manage. So once you've logged in, it's going to look like you've come back to the same page, and it can be really confusing. Like, I thought I logged in, and so that's going to hurt 20% of you. You want to go in and you want to hit the manage button, and that's actually how you are going to start posting. So that's the first confusion that pretty much everyone hits. Once you get in there, you're going to go into this area where there's this blue slide screen, and you're like, okay, what do I do? The first thing you want to do is you either want to hit an event right here, or if you're used to this a bit more, you can slide over here, and the reason I don't mention it is because it's hidden. But this is the other thing, create an event, all right? So that's going to hurt a lot of other people, but essentially all you have to do is click here at the top and hit add an event. And then you hit the form. Now, we're gonna get into answering your question. What happens? So we're gonna put in the title and a summary. So the summary, this is a very short, it says 255 characters, so it's gonna be very brief, but most of you will have a lot more information. You want to go and hit the add a full description thing down here, which will open up a, what you see is what you get, HTML viewer, sort of editor thing that you're probably already relatively familiar with, but they're never quite perfect. You're gonna paste your text in there, and it will allow you, like your regular email account, to bold things and do some other things. What I suggest is if you have a title or a big something that you want people to remember, go over here and give it a heading 1, heading 2. By default, all the text that you pop in here is gonna be tiny, okay? And that's gonna make your listing super hard to read for people. And another thing that you can do is people are putting on Zoom classes and then just put in the text. And the text doesn't always help people. You can select that text and make it a link, hit the link thing, and make it an automatic link so that when people go to your listing of an event, they can actually get to the event. Otherwise, they're going like, oh my God, what do you mean I have to scan a QR code and log in on my phone and then freak out that I want to do it on my desktop? So there's that. So this is taking care of you. Choose by location. You don't really do anything with that drop down. You're going to start putting in Taos. Okay, and you notice when I first put it in there, there was all the other campuses, main campus, Anderson School. So all the other campuses do have these things, and these are designed for sort of reserving rooms. We don't really do that here. We are really just letting people know that this is in the Taos area. I do ask you to put Taos campus on there because that's going to ensure that your event shows up very specifically on our Taos calendar. There are tons of other calendars out there, but you want your event to show up on ours. Go ahead.
can you do the drop down just so we can see what happens there above, where it says location and there's the drop down?
Sure. There's nothing.
There's nothing,
It's
okay.
all location and date time just switches the order of there's the location first and then the time. If you switch that, it flops.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just said, so just to clarify that, we want to put in Taos campus at the bottom area where you just typed it in. We do have to type it in because when you drop down there, Taos does not come up as an option. So you have to start typing in Taos, and then Taos campus will pop up. And again, to reiterate what Enrico said, that's primarily to make sure it shows up on our Taos calendar. We don't have the option here of putting in specific buildings or locations or Rio Grande Hall or Baton Hall. So you would put that in, it's just indicating that it happens in the Taos community, right? So that would be important to include in your description.
So that is why I will suggest because that's not there, you in your description say this event at the Hive. And take that and go and say heading 1 or heading 2. And you can change the color to red. This will be very, very clear. This will be far more clear to the person coming to your calendar event than the other notes. We'll take a look at what this all really looks like in a second, okay? And then we're gonna say, like we're doing, so we're gonna Zoom link, we're gonna go here, and it's gonna be HTTPS // sorry. Whatever. And so that is going to be helpful. Then we'll choose date. And then we'll choose a time. So this is showing some reserved things already. And why is that showing up? The reason that's showing up is because we technically only have one Taos campus. And if something on campus is reserved already, it's going to show it as a already taken sort of thing. Our calendar system at the moment thinks of UNM campus as a reservable classroom or building. And so what we can do is we're going to go in and we can select off to the side there. It's going to duplicate that. And we're going to say, oh, I actually just want it here from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Say okay. And it will coexist with this other thing. Anita and Teresa will receive a little exclamation point next to the thing saying, oh, hey, these two events are in the same place, but they're going to ignore that. And it doesn't really make any real difference to what we do. But this is all stuff that's going to confuse you. And so I wanted to touch on it. And then the next thing is, if you want your item to be featured at the top of the calendar, you're going to hit here, and this is a featured event.
And I would actually say that that's something that Teresa decides, because all of the events cannot be featured events. And so she'll look at all the events that are happening, and she'll select the ones that would show up as featured event on the top banner.
So you can put in your contact information, and then you can go down here to the upload. This is a regular upload. You can upload JPEGs, PNGs. You can also upload PDFs, which I'm sure you've done in the past. If you don't have anything, if you don't have enough information or any graphics, you can click on Choose from Library. There's the default folder, which is pretty much everything that main campus uses. And then I made a Taos folder. Taos folder has these, which are a few icons. There are things like coffee and conversation, there's lecture, there's fitness, there's a little microphone. So just, and then there's some stuff that we highlighted in the past, the mathematics learning labs, the writing camp, etc. And so you go ahead and you'll just choose one of these things. We're going to click on attach, and it will show up here. You can attach multiples. You don't have to just do one. So if you can put a PDF, a graphic, several other things to put up there. The more you put up there, it could be nicer. You might want to put up a map or something like that that lets people know where to go. And that's it. You pretty much ignore everything else. That's another thing that you're gonna, you don't have to do a survey. It's gonna put a survey. I don't want a survey. Don't worry about it. If you don't start filling out a survey, it's not gonna be a survey. I'm gonna go ahead and submit. Let's go ahead and submit it. And it's okay, it's been put up there. You can go back to the events list and list events. I don't know when I put it up there, but things are going to either be in a state for being approved or not. Chances are you won't have the access to this sort of thing. You'll be able to list things, but you won't be able to approve it.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
That would be dangerous.
That's dangerous.
So from that point, once it's submitted, then Teresa and I both get a notice that a new event request has been submitted. Teresa has taken the lead on going in, reviewing the posting, making sure that all of those fields are filled out, making sure it has an image and all of those things. If there's something missing, she'll reach out and say, hey, you know, I noticed blah, 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 and ask you to go in and make that change. Once it looks good to go, she'll approve it, and then only once it's approved will it show up on the public calendar.
Are these automatically linked to the Facebook page?
And so this is my part, okay? We're gonna go in and take a look at what all the calendars, Facebook, everything else means. We're gonna go ahead and I have to.
It doesn't matter.
So I can get I should put all of the staff council meetings on this calendar.
So you can, and it would be very good, and if there are repeating times.
Yeah, they
you have
are.
them set to repeat.
We need to do that.
So it was really, really helpful. You can create a little icon to put up for Taos Council, or I can make one for you. Yeah, so let's talk about calendars, where things go, how things get set up.
It's old.
So there's a bunch of calendars. If you want people to show, okay, the way we've done it in the past is like, oh, I'll make a flyer, put it somewhere, people will show up. Maybe they don't. Who knows? There are a lot of calendars in our community, all right? And physical things are very, very good, but I recognize it's really, really hard to get out there and go out to the other side of town and stick up some flyers. There is the UNM-Taos thing. Now, the positives of the UNM-Taos calendar is it reaches all of UNM. And it shows up on the front page of our website. So that is beneficial. There is also one thing that's nice. Because Anita and Teresa review these sorts of things, if you upload them, they have a general sense that event's gonna happen, and it can go into the What's Happening newsletter, which we're going to cover a little bit later. Okay. There is the Taos News. Taos News has a calendar. How many people check the Taos News for events? Pretty much everybody does. Guess what? No one on this campus puts any events in the Taos News calendar, as far as I'm aware. You do? You do? Okay, okay.
Yeah, always.
So some people do, that's good. They need to. They are probably people who have people who show up to their events. If you put them up into the online events calendar at least 2 weeks before the event, if not, it won't show up, definitely won't show up in the Tempo print calendar, okay? So Scott, you worked with a person who actually culled through those things, right?
I don't know who does.
Anymore?
I don't know who does.
So Taos News has deadlines, and they have to have stuff, and they review it, and they put them in their calendar that's actually printed. There is Live Taos, which people go to through a lot of events. There is Facebook, and so we're a lot of familiar with things. The positives for that is it has its own events page. If you like to go, if you want to go, if you consider go, it'll let your friends know. And when that event comes around, it'll auto remind them that, oh, you should probably go to this event. You said you wanted to go. So that's really nice about the Facebook.
How many different Facebook pages do we have here at UNM? Like Tech has one. We have one UNM-Taos, but there's departments that have their own Facebook, isn't there?
There are groups. We're not really going to talk about those things because I don't run those things, and those are open to others.
And I'll just say briefly, that's gonna be another session, full session. There's one official UNM-Taos Facebook page. We actually try to discourage different departments from starting a Facebook page, for various reasons, but, at one point there was no less than 20 different UNM-Taos related departmental pages. And of those 20, only 3 were actually active because the people who had started them had since left, and nobody on campus has access to them. The other thing is that the more pages we have, the more it actually dilutes things rather than promoting things. So that's a whole other full session. But what I would say is if you have something that you want promoted on the UNM-Taos Facebook page, it would go through a BCAM request form. And we would share it out on our Facebook page. The other thing is, it's, for a social media platform to really be managed properly, it's up to 10 hours a week. And we have a designated quarter-time person just to do social media.
Because what we do when we post is we automatically copy UNM-Taos. So we share it. We share it with everyone we want it to go out with. So what happens to that? No one's looking at the shares, it has to be submitted to BCAM?
Well, that's a whole other, we'll get into that during the social media thing.
And that's not what this is about. Yeah.
Okay.
This is to let you know there are other resources, and if you want to communicate things, there are other avenues. These are, right now I'm covering outside avenues for communicating, so.
And these are, if I could just add, Enrico, that these are things that if you had an event that you wanted promoted, you would go into that Taos News online thing and promote your own event, and versus this is not something BCAM does for you.
Oh, of course.
Again, yeah, so that's what I was intending to say, that, yeah, there may be certain expectations. The reason I'm showing you and this particular right now is so you can take the reins. So you go to events, and then you'll see this and add events. You go to Live House, and you go to add event. You go to Facebook, go to events that are on your side thing, create a new event. And go, I didn't cover this, there's also Taos org, which is a really good calendar. Primarily, it is marketed towards the outside community, people coming in. What's good about this one, and so several of the other ones, is because they're super public, your events actually show up in Google searches. So that's another reason why you would want to use any of these other things. Again, these are not items that we do for you. But it's best to be aware. And then we're gonna jump into some listserv sorts of things.
So before we do that, there's some pages to see.
I got your.
Can you just pull up the separately? Can you just pull up the PowerPoint that I sent you?
I can try.
So before we move into listservs, any questions on how to submit an event to the Taos online calendar?
Yeah, so under the location section, I saw a button that said like custom location or something like that. Could you essentially like put like what building like you were representing that?
Let's let Enrico's gonna open up a PowerPoint, and then once we do that, then we will go back into that and see what that does. I've actually not tried that, so let's test it out and see what happens.
But again, in the description of what you're doing, if you can put the building, the room number large, it's gonna be far more effective than even if it doesn't stick there.
Okay. But before you share that, let me jump back into the calendar thing and see if we can look at question.
I'm gonna go to the web page stuff.
To the calendar. So let's see, so we're gonna go to create an event. I'm gonna do a test event. And we'll go ahead and submit this and see what happens on Tedessa's side. We might have to get back to you on the details of it. So this one, we are going to leave blank, right? That's not really where you would do the locations. Here, we're going to put Taos campus, right? And I see here is what you're suggesting. So let's see what happens here. Custom location, let's say Flower campus. Pathways, building, library. So what we'll do then is, once we submit it, let's take a look and see, Teresa, how that shows up once it's approved.
It will show up as a little place marker icon.
And this is contact information. This is what will show up publicly. So again, if like you're the contact person for an event happening at the library, let's go ahead and submit this. So we'll get back to you and see what looks like. It sounds like it will show up as a little subheader, but to Enrico's point, it's really probably best just to include it big red in the body of the that description.
Yeah, so we can, what I mean is go ahead and go to actions if you want, and just preview it. Preview this, whatever this one is. Scroll down. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but essentially, an example is here's Taos campus. You'll see also another little thing with the notation that I need to add there. And that will show up in the preview of your event in a very similar way at the exact same scale. And because of its very small scale, that's why I glossed over it.
Okay. Any other questions on the calendar? How to submit, what happens when you do submit? Does it make sense how the submitting a calendar item connects to the Friday what's happening email? Does it make sense why we don't send out every campus event announcement onto the listserv? Okay. So let's move on to listservs then. What happened, the way that it worked previously is that there was 3 campus listserv, one for faculty, one for staff, and one for students. And when somebody requested an email get sent out, there are times that it's a very specific message is targeted to one of those populations. You know, faculty only would be something about syllabi or posting midterm grades. Staff and students don't need to hear that, right? There's an announcement about a staff council meeting. That doesn't necessarily need to go to faculty or students. So those were the 3 listservs. Now, what we were finding is that then there could be one message that did need to go out to faculty, staff, and students, and it would get the same message would get out, sent out to those 3 listservs by 3 separate people. What was happening though is that there were people that, because of their position on campus, they might be considered both staff and faculty. Or for a period of time, I was both a student and a staff member. So not only was there that, you know, bombardment of email, but then it was like getting them twice because you could have different roles on campus. So people were like, please stop sending me emails, unsubscribe. There was a lot of complaints about like, you know, the mass of emails. Every event was still going out. So you could see how it got to be a little much. So in 2019, we worked really hard at trying to come up with a way that we can still be sending information out to all the populations, and do it in a way to reduce email fatigue and the complaints that we were receiving. And also the folks were unsubscribing, which meant they were not getting any of the pertinent emails. So what we did is we created, these are the things that we'll go over: the current listserv, how to request something get sent out to one of the listservs, and how and why to use them. And as this notes, the hope is that this process will be streamlined and we'll have less unsubscribes while still getting pertinent information out. So now there exist 5 official campus listservs. So a listserv is essentially an email group. So once you see that this is an actual email address, each of these is one email address, but embedded with that one email address is 120 faculty, for example, or the 1,200 students. Instead of having to blind carbon copy or copy all of those individual email addresses, they're all connected to this one email. So that makes sense to everyone, right? What a listserv is. So as I mentioned, we have the student instruction, which is the faculty and staff. What we created new in 2019 is the faculty and staff joint listserv. So we took once a semester, we get the faculty listing, we get the staff listing from Kathy and Deborah respectively. We merge those together, unduplicate those, and then create the faculty and staff listserv. Similarly, once a semester, we take that unduplicated faculty, staff, add the students, unduplicate that all, and that becomes the all campus listserv, which includes faculty, students, and staff. This is pretty cool. Now, the way that listservs work, not everybody has the ability to send to that big group, to any of them. So in the back of the house, we have administrators to those listservs, which is an administrator has full access. They can add, they can delete, they can remove, they can update, etc. And then we have, separate to that, we have users. There's fewer administrators than there is users. So the users are the people that are authorized to send to that, and it's by email address. So abringus at UNM.edu is an authorized admin and user to these email addresses. So I can go in and I can take someone off or add someone, and I can also, it will recognize when I send an email to any one of these listservs, in the back of the house, it'll say, oh, okay, she's on our thumbs up list, we'll allow her to send. If you try to send, you would get an error message back saying you don't have the ability or authorization to send to this listserv, okay? So that's why it goes through one of the authorized users. Now, each of these listservs is managed by different people. So there's this, and based on function. So Patricia, as the Director of Student Affairs, she manages and is a primary authorized user for the student listserv. Kathy in academic affairs, for obvious reasons, and Deborah for staff as the HR administrator, okay? So they are the primary owners and administrators and users of those listservs. The bottom two, faculty and staff and all campus, because the messages that get sent to those two listservs tend to be more broad campus announcements, BCAM is the primary authorized users for those. So each one of us on BCAM are able to send to that listserv, those two listservs. Then the other thing that we were noticing is that, so for example, if Patricia's the owner or user or administrator for the student listserv, she was sending emails from her net ID, from her email, patrod@unm.edu, to the student listserv. So again, to make it a little bit more organized and structured, and so it wasn't coming from her personal email address, we also created new net IDs that would coordinate with each of the listservs. Oops. So these are the net IDs. We created Taos student at UNM.edu, Taos faculty at UNM.edu, Taos staff at UNM.edu, and Taos at UNM.edu. And so you can see, instead of staff council getting an email from Deb at UNM.edu, the email is sent to the staff listserv from the Taos staff net ID. Does that make sense? And it's clear the difference between these net IDs and the listserv because it can get a little confusing. So now what's important about this is when you want something to go to one of the listservs, Patricia as the owner needs to know, but it also needs to land in the Taos student because it'll come from that net ID. So I'll give you an example. Let's use the Taos one because that's one that BCAM manages. So Teresa and I are the primary people that send things out to the all campus listserv. Let's use that as an example. So we're owners or administrators of the all campus listserv, but we don't want it to come up from Teresa's email address or from Abringus. We want that email to come from Taos at UNM.edu. So what we do then is we log out of our own net ID and we log into this Taos at UNM.edu. So you as a user, what we ask is that you send your email request to Taos at UNM.edu because it'll get forwarded from that address, but it's good to copy me and Teresa on it, just so we check the Taos net ID pretty regularly. It's always a good idea to CC us though. So we can say, oh, there's an email over there that I need to log out of my personal net ID, log into this net ID and send the email out. Does that make sense? And then the same.
I've been sending communications to Deb, so I should be sending it to Taos staff at UNM.edu.
And copy Deb. And copy Deb. So when you copy the owner, whether that's me or Teresa or Deb for staff or Kathy for faculty or Patricia for students, send it to both. And again, the reason why is if you send it to Teresa to send to the listserv, she has to then send it to Taos at UNM.edu and then go in. If you send it to both, it's already in. And copying the individual, the person, just as a cue, a reminder for those that don't regularly check these net IDs, hey, something's hanging out over there, go check it. But it just prevents us from having to forward it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is what I just described. Email sent to Taos instruction will come from Taos faculty at UNM.edu instead of Kathy. Emails to Taos staff will come from Taos staff at UNM.edu instead of Deborah. Taos students will come from Taos student at UNM.edu instead of Patricia. And then emails to Taos faculty and staff and all campus will come from Taos at UNM.edu instead of me or Teresa personally. Make sense?
And send the request to the IDs with the people responsible on copy.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Thanks. Okay, so that was, we got into a little bit into the weeds, but it's hopefully that clarifies like, who am I supposed to send these emails to? Like if Teresa is sending it, why do I send it to Taos at UNM.edu?
Yeah.
So here's some guidelines. One, we try to be, again, to really limit the email fatigue and the so many emails coming out. We ask that we're a little, I would say protective about the emails that we send out to any of those listservs, right? One, it has to be campus related, department announcement, memos, advisories. We don't do anything about personal initiatives. We don't do anything about like, Anita's having a fundraiser for, for a GoFundMe for a personal thing, we don't do campus emails about individual courses because with how many individual courses do we offer a semester? It's just, we just don't have the capacity to do that. And usually anything other non-campus related, there's a little bit of gray area in that though. So for example, there could be an event that's happening in the community that is not directly campus related, it's not coming from an internal source, but it might benefit our students. So for example, maybe the hospital is doing an info session on open enrollment for insurance that would benefit our employees or our students. If it's something regarding that would benefit, you know, the health, wellness, education of any one of our campus community, we would consider sending it. If it's something that has to do with a community partner, and when I say partner, it's a community partner is someone that we have a long-term ongoing relationship with, missions that align. Some of those, there's not a very there's not a set line on what that is. So some of those decisions are, not sure about this one. You know, and I might there's gonna be one coming out where Rocky Mountain Youth Corps had a request to survey our students. We went back and forth on that because we just sent a bunch of our own surveys to students. That is critical information that will help us inform programs and services and basic needs for our students. Do we want to bombard them with another survey? Well, you know, Alejandra and Mary G talked about it, and we're like, well, you know, we went through back and forth and we decided, well, Rocky Mountain Youth Corps is a long-term partner. This can benefit, you know, not just our students, but the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps' greater mission, which will kind of support the whole community and the system in which our students exist. So those are the types of things. Again, a lot of those might be done on a case-by-case basis. But general rule of thumb has to do with campus, preferably not an event. If we're getting a lot of requests to send event emails out, we're gonna refer people back to posting it on the online calendar. So it's included in that one collaborative or, you know, combined event email on Fridays that Tedessa sends. The easiest way to explain the rest of this is send us the email exactly as you want it to go out to that population. In other words, what is not helpful for us is, hey, Anita, can you send out an announcement about this new thing that's happening on campus? What was most helpful for us to receive is something that we can completely, just very quickly forward and send. So that means your subject line should be targeted to your population and representative of what is in the body of the email. Instead of announcement from library, it should say, which you guys are really good at, your UNM-Taos Library's current newsletter, right? And then the other thing that we often get is the subject line is please forward. That's not an appropriate subject line for people to receive, right? Or it'll say the email body will just have you know, please forward in the email body, and it'll have a PDF attachment, but there's no content in the body of the email. The best email that would get forwarded will include, dear campus community, dear local familia, you know, dear staff and faculty, please see below an attached information on the blah, 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 all of the details in the body of an email written out, and some sort of attachment. If you have the capacity and know how to do a snip or a screenshot of your flyer, that it's an attachment as a PDF or a JPEG and embedded in the body of the email, again, it just makes it more visually stunning. So the ideal email would say, let's say, for example,
Do a staff council,
pardon?
do an example of staff council.
So, well, we don't do events, right? So it would be an event, but maybe it's staff council announces new executive committee, right? Or congratulations to new staff council executive committee. So a subject line might say, congratulations to new UNM-Taos staff council. In the body of the email, it might say, dear campus community, the 2023 staff council is pleased to announce the results of the election. Please congratulate blah, 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 blah. And you guys took a picture of staff council, it's embedded in the body of the email, and it's included as an attachment. And there's always a, need more information, or there's always a contact information. And again, it's, you send us the email exactly as you want it to go out to your audience. And then the other key thing is in the very first line of the email is clarify staff only, faculty only, all campus. So a lot of times we get emails that say, can you send this out to the listserv? We have 5.
Are you gonna send us these, slides?
We have handouts.
Okay.
So include a subject line that is relevant to the content of the email and meaningful to your intended recipients. Do not use a subject line of please forward or send to staff. Oops. In the body of the email, please confirm the listserv request, for example, staff only or off campus, etc. We will remove that line, right? Because we don't want that sentence going out to folks. If you're including an attachment, don't just send the attachment, include all the information on the attachment in the body of the email and text. The reason why is because a lot of people check it on their smartphones and they may not have the ability to view an image or a graphic. They may not have smartphones. And so we always want the information to be included in regular text and if you have it as an attachment. The other thing is that on attachments, make your attachment, the name of your document, something that's relevant and meaningful. So for example, instead of saving a Word attachment as doc1, which is how you saved it to your computer, make it relevant to, instead of, like say I'm sending an email about these guidelines, instead of saving my document as guidelines, because that could be, what is that? Guidelines for what? Guidelines for attire? Is it my guidelines for, my exercise and diet protocol guideline? I mean, what kind of guidelines is it? Versus BCAM listserv guidelines date. And that way, when people download it, they can save it to their computer in that same way. Rose?
Okay, so I've made a lot of mistakes with, I see where some of my, being new to the president position, but. So for example, I sent an attachment. The first time, I wanted it to embed it, Scott helped me, because I wanted a nice heading with the communication. But the first one I sent out, I sent an attachment, but I forgot to embed it, but, and I sent a QR code, right? Anyway, it just, that whole thing just got forwarded as an attachment, a QR code, nothing. So I'm wondering why you want an attachment, like if I embed it, because that's the way I want it to come out, why would you also need an attachment?
Because sometimes, so let's say the way that that is beneficial for me, if I get information in a body of email and it's something that I want to save into my documents archive, let's say these guidelines, I have this available in a Word document and a PDF. If I send this out in an email, I'm going to copy and paste this text into the body of an email. But what if you get it and you want to print it out? It's kind of a pain in the butt to print out from a body of an email and the formatting gets all wonky. So if you attach this information as a PDF, then you can download this PDF, print it, save it, and have it as reference.
Okay, so you're not talking about the art, for example, because I wanted a heading of art, right? But I didn't even think of including it, which I fixed. But so I attached the art.
I see.
And then she just forwarded the art.
Yeah. So we will forward it as you send it.
Yeah.
We don't format, design, edit your emails.
No, I know.
So in that case, what I would encourage you to do is, as you're drafting your email, insert the image header that you want, insert your text, blah, blah, blah. And we're happy to help show you how to insert an image in line. That means in the body of the email. When I say as an attachment is if there's a flyer or a document, you don't have to attach every picture that you might include in line. Now, the other thing, I think that's a good point, is that Enrico has actually gone through and for each listserv, it will automatically add a heading.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, the UNM-Taos one.
When you receive an email that was sent to all campus, have you noticed there's a
Yeah,
header of
But the
campus?
staff council doesn't have one. Like when I sent out a listserv, it didn't come up with a heading.
The staff listserv, staff council doesn't have a
I
listserv.
mean, the staff listserv.
The staff listserv does have a staff heading. When we send something to the staff listserv, I'm fairly certain it has a UNM-Taos staff image header.
I don't get it, so,
It should, so anything I've sent to Deb to release should have had a heading, but I don't
Yes.
see it. Is it?
If she's sending it to the staff listserv, it should.
Okay, I'm gonna check.
Deborah also for some time was creating an outlook of all the staff email addresses. I'm like, no, Deb, you don't have to do that anymore because we have the staff listserv. The staff listserv, again, because it goes to the listserv system, Enrico as an administrator for all of the listservs, he can go in and create templates. And so when something is sent to this listserv, it gets this header. If something's sent to that listserv, it gets a different header. If something's sent to the student listserv, it gets a different header. Okay, moving on. So this is an easy kind of at a glance. If you want something to students only, you would send it to taosstudent@unm.edu, email or copy Patricia. If you wanted faculty only, Taos faculty@unm.edu, CC Kathy. Taos staff@unm.edu, CC Deb. Faculty and staff or students, faculty and staff, that's the all campus one. Send it to taos@unm.edu and CC Teresa. And we have handouts for all of these, and we'll send this out.
That's good to know.
A couple other things on the listservs. Oh, I just lost there was something else I was going to share. There was something else I was going to say about the listservs. I can't remember. It'll come to me. Any questions on how the listservs work, who to send announcements to, what announcements would go here versus being posted to the calendar and sent out on the Friday email?
So this is good.
Any questions in general?
I appreciate you all taking the time.
Of course.
And I appreciate what you do.
and just a minor clarification again for Lobo Bites is really about faculty accomplishments, student profiles, news stories and stuff like that. So when you're sending stuff to Scott to show up to Lobo Bites, that's sort of the content that
Okay,
we're looking for. And then also for what's happening, it's about campus activities, lectures or seminars, regional events, things like that.
Thank you for that clarifying. And those two things, the logo bites and the what's happening calendar email, we developed in response to what was expressed from campus as something that was either needed or wanted. The logo bites was created because people were like, we don't know what's happening on campus. This cool thing happened, or that person just did this, or so-and-so presented at a national conference. Why don't we tell our stories more? That's exactly why we created Logo Bites. This is something that Scott is like super consistent about. We've kind of refreshed the look and feel of that. The other thing to know about Logo Bites is that when stories get sent to Scott to include in Logo Bites through the ticketing system, he'll include it there. As he's learning about cool things that are happening on campus, he might say, hey, Paralee, the little 3 sentences that you included or sent on this that we included in Logo Bites, that's super interesting. Can we sit down and do an interview? Because I want to write a whole press release on that. And then that press release goes out to the Taos News. It goes to the Higher Education Department Public Information Officer. It goes to University Communications and Marketing. So the potential for that to go out. So it's not just us telling internally what's happening. That's kind of a launch pad to potentially it having a much broader reach, where we've had things show up on KRQE News in Albuquerque or get printed in the Santa Fe New Mexican because of Scott being like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna follow up with this and make this a bigger story, and then it gets picked up by other news outlets.
And it gets on our blog too, so when people go to our website, they might come across it.
Oh, one other thing on the listservs is again, being mindful about preventing email fatigue, we try not to send more than 1 to 3 emails a day to the campus listserv, the all campus listserv. We know on Wednesdays, Local Bites goes out every Wednesday. Fridays, the calendar email goes out every Friday. So when we get a request to send something out, it kind of goes in a queue. And if we already have our 1 to 3 emails kind of scheduled to go out on a specific day, yours may not go out until the next day. You'll notice we also try to do, like, if we are gonna send up to 3, we'll do 1 in the morning, 1 midday, and 1 late afternoon, so it's not. So the other thing is if Teresa and I are both out or we're busy or whatever, we may not, even if there's nothing else in the queue, we just may not physically possible to send your email out that quickly. So that said, try not to send your email request to the all campus or faculty and staff. This needs to go out today or tomorrow, because there's oftentimes things come up where we just can't send it out today or tomorrow. The other thing in that queue, if let's say we have a queue to send out the library newsletter, and it's the second email that we have scheduled to go out that day, but then we get a water shortage or we get something else that's an urgent advisory, that is going to bump everything else and kind of push it further on the queue. Does that make sense? So we can always, plan ahead. It's always better to send it to us a few days before you want it to go out. If you want it to go out on a particular date, you can let us know that. We can actually schedule emails. Once we forward an email to a listserv, there's a kind of approval authorization process where if I send to the all campus listserv, I get an email back saying, we just noticed you're requesting a send to the all campus listserv. Is this correct? Click here to approve. Once I click approve, then it actually goes out. So there's like a 2-step authentication process. Sometimes this weird thing happens where if I hit send on an all campus email, it kind of lingers out in the ether world before I might get that approval link to click.
Yeah.
And then, it could be seconds or it could be hours before we get that. Usually it's pretty instant. And then the other thing that's weird happens sometimes when we click that approval thing, if there's something going on with the network or the email system or whatever, there also might be a delay on that too. So if we're like, yeah, we sent it, and you're like, wait, I haven't seen it come out, just understand that there's those delays that are kind of out of our control to manage. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you, BCAM, and Rico and Scott, and you guys do amazing work.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming. We are gonna post this information. Here are handouts that go over, oops.